sixth paper. So in this sixth paper, we have in total 4 blocks are there. 4 blocks are there. Each blocks are 3 units. First of all, before going to just we are introduced in this what are this the syllabus. Once we will discuss in this total how many blocks are there, how many units are there. After then we will go to the syllabus according to unit wise. So before going to syllabus, we are discussing about the total our syllabus structure. In that syllabus, total divided in 4 blocks. Each blocks are having the 3 units. One block, first block is introduction to psychological assessment. In this introduction to psychological assessment, having the 3 units. First unit is introduction to psychological assessment and psychometrics, and the second one is psychophysics, and third one is psychological assessment methods. This is the black one, and the second black is psychological testing. In this psychological testing units and having the 3 units, that comes and fourth one is called before your black is 3 units and continuation is black to fourth unit. Psychological tests and test construct. The fifth unit is test construction. Sixth unit is reliability and validity. So in this black two are also having the 3 units, fourth and fifth and sixth. So total first and second blocks are combination total having the sixth unit, 6 units. And the third block is also in this third block also 3 units are there. Third block is that name is called as called test standardization. In this test standardization also having the 3 units. One is norms, seventh unit, that is seventh unit, and the eighth unit interpretation of test scores, that is eighth unit, and ninth unit is statistics. Ninth unit is statistics. This is the block 3 and block 4 types of tests. In this types of test, having the 3 units are there. Unit 10th, 11th, and 12th are undercome in this block 4. And 10th unit is intelligence test, and 11th unit is aptitude test, and 12th unit is personality test. In this total 6 semester having the 12 units and 4 blocks. So now we are going to unit 1. Unit 1 and is that unit 1 means block 1. In that block 1 introduction to psychological assessment. This is the block 1. In this blocks 1 comes under block 1, unit 1, 2, 3. So now we are going to discuss about the unit 1, introduction to psychological assessment. So actually we are making the plan, 6 classes are there. In these 6 classes we are discussing total 12 units. So maximum we will try to every class 2 units will complete that syllabus. Suppose if you are not completed that 12 units extra, extra under another classes, we will take remaining classes. But today we are going to unit 1. Black 1, same time unit 1, black 1 introduction to psychological assessment. In that introduction to psychological assessment, having the 3 units, one unit is introduction to psychological assessment. In this psychological assessment comes the major content is introduction and psychological assessment and psychological testing and concept of psychometrics. In that concept of psychometrics, and comes the theoretical approaches, classical theories, and item response theory. And next one is methods of psychological assessment and important of psychological assessment. This is a major focus on this content. After completion of this content, we are going to discuss once reading this major aspects of this unit, summary. The summary. This is the summary, and also the overall in syllabus main uh, concept. And second one is check your progress. Model answer questions are there, and model examinations questions are there, and glossaries, and further readings are there. This is the after completion of further concepts. So now we are going to introduction. The introduction means what is the introduction? Introduction to psychological assessment. Before going to psychological assessment, we know about the what is the meaning of psychology. Before emerged the psychology where it was existed. Psychology existed before emerged the psychology existed in philosophy. In 1879, Wilhelm Wundt is a German psychologist. He was emerged the psychology specific science. So that's why we call Wilhelm Wundt father of psychology. After that, in psychology consisted in are surviving special subject or special science. Etymologically, psychology is the science of the psychology word derived from two Greek words, psyche and logos. Psyche means soul and means psyche, soul, and psyche and soul. Psyche means soul, and Greek soul. Logical and means study, and so total psychology means study of science or study of um, science or subject, and means in the total psychology science of soul or study of soul means we are study in soul. But number of psychologists they are denied that definition. Means because of soul is an invisible or it is not invisible, as well as it is not a concrete related subject. That's why all are the number of psychologists that definition is discarded. After that, soul, mind, conscious behavior, unconscious behavior. This is there's a number of psychologists. They are stated that different kinds of definitions. The finally psychology existed in definition is psychologist study of or science of behavior. In the behavior comes in human behavior or animal behavior also. The human behavior. So finally, psychology means a study of behavior or human behavior or animal behavior. Now, this is the final definition. Now we are going to in this chapter related introduction. Psychology is the study of human behavior in a particular context. It studies the characteristics of a person, how he thinks, feels, and behaves. It deals with the physical, mental, emotional, social aspects of an individual. Psychology predict, describes, explain, and control the behavior. Wilhelm Wundt is considered as the father of psychology. So, oh, it is deals with the physical, mental, emotional, social aspects of an individual. Same time, it is a study of behavior. In that behavior, or organism behavior. In that organism behavior, there comes behavior, human behavior, maybe human behavior, or maybe animal behavior. In that human behavior also deals with the or focus on organism, focus on organism, physical, mental, emotional, and the social aspects of an individual. So psychology predict, describe, explain, and control the behavior. It is the psychology predict, describe, and explain and control the individual behaviors. And also in this content related total description and description or subject related description and the uh, explained by psychologists and the psychology subject related. And the total also in this subject subject formulated or emerged or organized by Wilhelm Wundt. So we are all called as Wilhelm Wundt, father of psychology. Well, because he was emerged or he was established in psychology subject from the philosophy subject. After that, psychology has recognized the one specific science or subject. So he has established the Institute of Experiment Psychology at the University of Leipzig in Germany in 1879. Same time, when he was emerged or established the psychology subject, where it was in psychology laboratory at in Germany at psychology laboratory in Germany, Leipzig Nagra and Leipzig University. That is the experimental psychology laboratory. So on that we are considered as the first emerged of the psychology subject in 1879 at Leipzig University, Leipzig city, and Germany in Germany countries. So the knowledge of psychology helps to understand oneself. Again, insight into self-motivation, thought process, improve leadership skills, communicating ability, make accurate decisions, improve memory, and empathizes with others. In this psychology knowledge helps of individual, helps to the society. What kind of help? To understand oneself, to understand himself or oneself, to understand oneself. Again, insight into self motivation, to understanding oneself or understanding insight of one the self motivation through thought process, improve leadership skills, communicating ability, make accurate decision, improve memory, emphasize with others. These are all kinds of aspects focus focus the subject subject, especially on every individual, to know about the himself or oneself, or to know about or to focus on knowing about the or focusing or improving of self motivation, thought process, improving leadership, communication skills, make accurate decisions, improve memory, and emphasizes with others. At the same time, psychology treat behavioral dysfunctional and psychological problem resulting from physical and mental illness. They help improving mental health and quality of life. A psychologist conduct psychological tests to identify, access, and diagnose mental, behavioral, and emotional problem. Assessment is the term generally used in education. It is an important component of the teaching learning process. It is a process emerged from the classroom transaction of course material. The main purpose of assessment is to improve the student learning and elevate the teaching process. This is the introduction of the psychological assessment. Now, one in that unit, another subtopics: psychological assessment and psychological testing. Tests and assessment are two separate but related components of elevations process. Psychological elevations is the process of collecting information of a person with an interaction to develop comprehensive overview about person's behavior. This elevation is carried out using psychological assessment and psychological testing. The psychological testing is a process of testing which involves observation of systems of behavior and for performance based on numerical or categorical scale to establish changes and differences in one individual or a group of individual in a time or cover over a time period. Psychologists use standardized norms, reference test. On other hand, psychological assessment is a process of collecting the relevant data using questionnaires, interview, inventory, and observation method, interpret and analyze the data to understand the underlying cause of particular behavior using norm referenced psychological assessment tools. It is the process of assessing the behavior, personality, and capabilities of a person using various techniques. Psychologists are the specially trained person to conduct psychological assessment to perform and interpret the results. Psychological assessment is a process of testing that uses a combination of techniques to help arrive at some hypothesis about a persons and their behavior, personality, and capabilities. Now, another point is psychological testing provide a basic information about the individual person, whereas psychological assessment delve deep into into the problematic behavior and find out solutions using interpretation and analysis of the data collected to uncover these subliminal aspects. The psychological test is a part of psychological assessment. It assists the psychologist to study in depth and suggest more measures for well-being of the people. This is the psychological assessment and psychological test related concept. See here, the test and assessment are the two separate or related components of elevation process. There are two components. This is a separate of two component process. Psychology elevation is the process of collecting information of a person. The collecting means where we are going to collect or suppose we are collecting the different kinds of uh, aspects. Suppose we are collecting the human behavior, personality, human behavior traits, emotions, characteristics, intelligence, aptitude. These are all. Suppose we are collecting the or evaluation of an individual. Uh, in this psychology subject, it is the very assistance of the those who are in evaluated. So that's why psychology is the very important subject. And the concept of psychometric and theoretical process. In that psychometric and theoretical aspects, once we are look on that area, it is the study of theory and technical techniques of psychological measurements such as measurements of attitude, aptitude, intelligence, abilities, personality. It primarily studies the difference between individuals. It is a concern with testing, measurements, assessment, and related activities. Psychometrics focuses on the construction of the psychological tools and their validation, questionnaires, inventories, survey tools, questionnaires, interview schedule, group interviews are the tool of psychology. So, concept of psychometric and theoretical aspects. Once we are observing these areas, in that concept of psychometric and theoretical aspects, majorly we are focusing the theoretical aspects. In that theoretical aspects, one is classical test theory, and second one is item respond theory. In that theoretical aspects, so looking of an individual majorly the study of theory and techniques of psychological measurements such as measurements of attitude, aptitude, intelligence, abilities, personality. It primarily studies the difference between individual. It studies between the individual. It is a concern with testing, measurements, assessment, and related activities. Psychometrics focus on the construction of the psychological tool. Psychometry focus. The what kind of and which areas focus of the psychometric the focus is construction of psychological tests, tools and their validation and their validation questionnaires, in inventories, survey tools, opinions and interview schedules. Focused group interviews are the tool of psychology. Now we are going to theoretical approaches. In that theoretical approaches, two types are there. One is classical test theory, and the second one is item response theory. So first we are focus knowing about the classical test theory. Charles, according to classical test theory, Charles Spearman was one of the founder of the classical test theory. Charles Spear means is the one of the psychologists. He was founder of the classical test theory. This theory is also known as true score theory. This classical test founder is Charles Spearman, is the one of the psychologists and founder of this classical test theory. In this theory, called as true score theory also. This theory got its origin from the data that there will be errors in the measurements. Those errors are the random variables errors and conception of correlations and indexing the errors. It is concerned with the relationship between the three variables x, x, t, and e in the population. X is observed score, T is true score, E is error score. So total observed score is E is equal to 2 score plus error score. Observed score E is equal to score T plus error score. The error score observed score X is equal. So total in that classical theory concerned with the relation between the three variables. Classical test theory concerned with the three variables T, E, X. T means true score, E means error, X is observed score. So finally, we are see that principle theory. Observed score is equal to true score plus error score. So no total combination of this concept. The purpose of this theory was to recognize and develop the reliability of psychological test and assessment. So what purpose the classical test theory means? The observed or recognized this theory observed or recognized and developed the reliability of psychological test and assessment. This is the main concept of psychological test theory. So once again, we will revise it in this statement. The purpose of this theory was to recognize and develop the reliability of psychological test and assessment. Which is the test or areas or main focus is that recognize and develop the reliability of psychological test and assessment. The reliability of the test and assessment is measured through the performance of the individual taking the test and difficulty level of the questions or the task in the item. Reliability is calculated with the true score, which we get from the individual score on the test and number of errors in the test. Error may occur through mistakes within the process of testing and other factors such as being hungry and tired. If we found the standard error, it will be easy to find out the reliability. So the classical theory says that higher test reliability would heal more true score answers. Hence, in the process of psychological testing and assessment at every stage, it is essential to remove and reduce the error. Spearman says that in the process of testing, always there will be error. Error in test measurements, error while conduction test, internal and external process errors. Hence, he suggests that high scrutiny before conduction the test is essential to have high reliability. This is the observed scale. Now, observed the classical test theory, and now second one is item response theory. This theory is also known as latent responsible theory. Strong true score theory modern mental test theory. The pioneer of item response theory, a psychometrician, were Frederick M. Lord, mathematician George Rash, and psychologist Paul Lagerfeld. IRT in item response theory refers to a mathematical model that explains the relationship between latent trait and unobservable characteristics are an attribute and their observable outcomes, responses, performance, and manifestations. The purpose of this item response theory is to how will assessment work and how will individual item on assessment work. In that in this item response theory, another it is the theory or testing based on the individual performance of the test item and the level of performance of test takers on the overall measures of ability, and that item was designed to measure. It is based on the application to related mathematical models for testing, often regarded as superior to the classical test theory. It is named as item response theory as it focuses on the item. Item is item in this theory refers to multiple choice item, rating scales, and so on. It is based on the idea that the probability of correct key response to an item. It is mathematical in functions of persons and item parameters. In this psychometric and theoretical approaches are also one of the important of psychological testing and measurement. So item responsibility theory also some of the advantages are there. And that advantage, what are the advantages? It is useful to trace better error characterization, and the item response theory yield more precise scores. And there is Beatty link. People and item are on the same scale. Independent samples, powerful and assembled. Disadvantages means it needs a large sample size, difficult to use, complex models, need no expertise. Everyone cannot use it. Difficult to understand. These are the advantages and the disadvantages. Now we are going to another important area in this concept: methods of psychological assessment. There are different methods of psychological assessment. The assessment methods depends upon the purpose of the assessment. These methods of psychological assessment can be divided into three types. One is observational method, and second one is personality inventories, and the third one is projective techniques. Techniques. In these three methods divided the psychological assessment majorly. One is observation method. So now we are discussing observation method involves watching a participant and recording relevant behavior for analysis. Albert Bandura proposed observation method. Observation are conducted by trained person in natural or artificial setting. They may be structured or unstructured. It is deliberate, powerful, and purposeful to collect the data. This is the observational method. And the second one is personality inventories. Personality is a set of behavior, cognition, and emotional patterns which evolve from biological and environmental factors. Personality inventories are used to collect data related to personality aspects. It consists of questionnaires, opinioners, inventories, and rating scales, etc. In personality inventories, people express their feelings, reactions in certain situations. In that personality inventories, one of the example is MMPI. MMPI means Minnesota Multi-Phase Personality Test. MMPI, personality test. Inventories and also test. It is maybe called inventories test. And next, the third one is projective techniques. The projective techniques are indirect, unstructured method of investigation to measure underlying motive, urges, and intentions which cannot be observed through direct questioning. Projective techniques present ambiguous pictures which the subject interpret according to their personality. They give greater freedom and opportunity to the subject to express themselves in a situation than personality inventories. Example: Rorschach ink blank test, children perception test, and thematic apperception test means TAT, CAT, CAT, TAT. CAT means children perception test, and TAT means thematic perception test, and Rorschach ink blank test. These are all under comes the projective techniques. Projective techniques. Um, these are major divided by for assessment, psychological assessment. So in that lesson, based upon the types of measured, psychological tests are divided into the following groups also. One is personality test and intelligence test and achievement test and attitude test, aptitude test, and vocational test. These are all tests nearly and neuropsychological tests. Nearly in the 7 tests are based upon the types of trait measured psychological test. Trait measured psychological test of an individual related test. Now, one is one by one we are discussing following the test measurements psychological test. One is personality test. It is a method of assessing human personality and its constructs. The first personality tests were prepared in 1920 for the selection of armed force persons. Example: personality test are MMPI, Minnesota Multi-Phase Personality Test. MMPI includes aggressiveness, psychotism, negative emotionally, neuroticism, and introversions, or low positive emotionality. And the second one is intelligence test. Intelligence test is the ability to think and learn from experience, ability to solve problems and adapt to the novel situation. Intelligence tests are the series of tests prepared to measure the capacity to make abstraction, to learn and deal with the novel situation. For this intelligence test examples are standard Binet IQ test, the Wessler adult intelligence test, and the Wessler intelligence scale for children's. Wise and Whisk, uh, uh, WISE means intelligence adult, and WISE means intelligence scale for children, are the standards test designed to the intelligence. Now, achievement test. It is the degree to which an individual gets motivated to achieve the set goals. Henry Murray coined this test. Henry Murray coined the word achievement. Achievements tests assess the achievement of the learner. Examples are spelling test, timed arithmetic test, and map quizzes are all examples of achievement test. Now, and fourth one, attitude test. Attitude is the set of emotions, beliefs, and behavior towards a person, object, to event, or things. Attitude test are the people beliefs, feelings about people's event or an object. That attitude test example is Thurston scale and Likert scale. An aptitude test. It is the capability of an individual to do certain kinds of works such. It may be physical or mental in nature. For example, teaching aptitude, clerical aptitude, and tweezers dexterity and finger dexterity. This is the feature dexterity and fingers dexterities. These are all aptitude test. Features dexterity and finger dexterities. Next, vocational tests. They are predict tests to predict the potential of the individual to get success and gain satisfaction in various occupations and professions. They are also known as career tests. It measures in interest, aptitude, strengths, and weakness. And now, last one is neuropsychological test. Neuropsychological studies the relations between the brain and behavior. These tests measures the psychological functions linked to particular structures of the brain. It checks the brain functioning and behavior. They are in-depth assessment of skills and abilities likened to the brain. Likened to the brain. And another one is observation test. It is the set of observation, concentration, and presence of mind. These are all 8 kinds of tests for trait measures psychological test of, of an individual. So this is the psychological measurements test of any individual, of any individual. So in this area, in this unit, this is the main important. And in this last topic is importance of psychological testing. What is the purpose of psychological testing and how it is useful to useful for an individual means psychological testing is useful to set various aspects of human behavior like interest, aptitude, attitude, creativity, type of personality, intelligence, adjustment, etc. There are objective, standardized, and reliable assessment tests. They are reliable, valid, and have usability. They are useful to identify learning difficulty among the students, and it helps school administrators and teachers to evaluate students' academic performance, and it helps to a certain the ascertain the vocational ability of the students. They are useful to know the strength and weakness of the student. Psychological tests are helpful to find out the delayed skills among the students to make a placement decision and monitor the progress of the employees. To diagnose psychological disorders, personality disorder, to depressive disorder, cognitive functions, the emotional status of recruiters and hiring person. These are importance of psychological testing. This is the first unit. Now, in this unit, also another important areas of summary. In the summary is the total what we learn in this unit. So finalized consists concise in the total unit. They are making some important overall the topic concise in the unit, major uh, areas. Assessment is the term generally used in education. It is an important component of the teaching learning process. It is a process emerged from the classroom transactions of course material. The main purpose of assessment is to improve the students' learning and to evaluate the teaching process. Test and assessment are two separate but related components of evaluation process. Psychological evaluation is the process of collecting information of a person with an intention of, to develop comprehensive overview about a person's behavior. Psychological test is a part of psychological assessment. It assists the psychologist to study in depth and suggest some measures for well-being of the people. It is study of theory and techniques of psychological measurement, such as measurements of attitudes, aptitude, intelligence, abilities, personality, etc. There are different methods of psychological assessment. Assessment methods depends upon the purpose of the assessment. Psychological testing is useful to test various aspects of human behavior like interest, aptitude, attitude, creativity, type of personality, intelligence, adjustment, etc. They are objective, standardized, and reliable assessment tests. They are reliable, valid, and have usability. These concept under this summary. So this is the summary about the in this lesson. Now, in this lesson, another one is model answers questions, and in that model answer questions are all having the 8 points are there, and model examinations questions are one or two questions are there, and glossary. In this every unit's having the glossary. This is a very important for knowing the total overview of the sub that unit wise important topics of the glossary. Miscellaneous subjects are important subject. So we are in this glossary. Now, unit 2. This is a completion of unit 1. And now we are going to second unit, psychophysics. This is the second unit. In this second unit also, introduction concept of psychophysics. In that psychophysics introduction concept of psychophysics comes to concept of absolute alignments and different alignments. And third one is psychophysics methods, psychophysical methods, and psychological scaling. and psychological scaling methods. And in that psychological scaling method, Thorson equal appearing interval scale and some Likert summative scales and Gutman cumulative scales are psychological scaling methods. In these psychological scaling methods are three methods are there, and these methods are very important: Thurston, Likert, and Gutman. Thurston equal appearing interval scale, Likert cumulative scale, and Gutman cumulative scale. This is the major important concept in this second unit. And same as usual, remaining units, summary, model examinations questions, model examinations questions, and check your progress model answers and glossary and further reading also same as usual for that remaining units also. But we are focusing what is in this major content that is useful to our useful to us. So finally, we are discussing in the concept of psychophysics and psychophysical methods and physiological scaling and psychological scaling methods. This is the very important. And now we are discussing the psychophysics. Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mind. It is pure behavioral science. The psychophysics means it is a very pure behavior, pure behavioral science. Psychology as pure and applied branches. Actually, psychology before emerged the existed in philosophy. After emerged the psychology and the existed in specific science. Uh, uh, and at the same time, psychology divided in two types. One is scientific or pure psychology, and the second one is applied psychology. So, in this psychophysics is comes under the scientific or pure psychology, and another one is applied psychology. So, what we discuss in this subject, psychophysics, is comes under the pure psychology or scientific psychology. Pure branches of psychology studies behavioral aspect like human growth and development, sensation, perception, cognition, intelligence, attitude, interest, achievement, personality, aptitude, creativity, thinking, memory, and forgetting, etc. These are all areas focusing the pure psychology, pure or else scientific psychology. Pure branches of psychology as human psychology, developmental psychology, um, experimental psychology, psychophysics. Applied psychology uses the principle theories and concept of pure psychology and applies it to the betterment of other field. Applied branches of psychology are clinical psychology, industrial psychology, educational psychology, military psychology, environmental psychology, con- consumer psychology, advertised psychology, vocational psychology, guidance and counseling psychology, organizational psychology, industrial psychology, managerial psychology, engineering psychology, etc. These are all applied psychology. Psychophysics is one of the few branches of psychology. It studies the relationship between the stimulus, sensation, and perception. The sensation is the process of mind to receive information through various senses such as eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skins. We see with our eyes, we hear with our um, hear with our ear, we smell with our nose, we taste with our tongue, and we feel with our skin. Our senses are the great ways of knowledge. Different nerves such as optic nerves, auditory nerves, olfactory nerves, and cranial nerves, and touch receptor, and send the information to the brain. Perception is the ability to recognize and interpret the information received through sense organs. It includes how we respond to the information. It is process of receiving information from the environment through the senses and responding and interacting with the environment. The perception process starts when we receive the stimulus from the environment and end when we interpret the information. Assessing meaning the sensation to a sensation is perception. Examples of perception are recognizing our favorite food by its aroma, feelings of warm by hand, guessing the person by footsteps, etc. This stimulus is an interesting and exciting quality that evokes a functional reaction in the organism or tissues of organism due to an event of a situation. It is an exciting stage that causes a reaction. The stimulus can be external or internal. Example of stimulus are shiny moving objects for a baby, a person laughing after listening to a joke, plant growing towards sunlight, light in the retina, etc. After understanding sensation, perception, and stimuli, let us try to understanding the concept of psychophysics. This is the all concept of introduction of psychophysics. Now we are going to concept of psychophysics. So students, today we have been every day in this going to 6 classes. We have in only 1 hour, and so today 1 hour is over completed, and now tomorrow remaining continuation class will be taken, will be discussed tomorrow classes. Thank you very much, students. Tomorrow same 12 to 1 o'clock, I will take in this continuation class. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much.